In 2021, the FBI received nearly 850,000 complaints about internet crime, with nearly $7 billion in losses. So, how can you protect yourself or your business from being the next big loser? One way is to upgrade your online password game. No more using 123456 or password 1 exclamation point. Instead, it's time for long and complex passwords and different passwords for each site. Or, especially if you can't keep all those long, complex passwords in your head, you could go one better and adopt a modern password manager. Stay tuned as the RLS boys share our own experiences of evaluating, choosing, and implementing one of these potent tools right now on the Retirement Lifestyle Show.
Welcome to the Retirement Lifestyle Show. I'm your co-host, Roshan Loungani, excited for another week, another great episode. As always, I've got Adrian Nicholson and Erik Olson with us, and we actually have not been together for, I think, the last 2 episodes, maybe. So it's nice to get the team back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, and we've got a great episode, great content for everyone today. Are either of you guys anything interesting going on with you the last week or two since we've gotten together?
Just planning a lot of trips for the spring and summer, getting the ball rolling on my bachelor party, and just booking flights headed up to New England a little bit to just spend some time with some family. So it's just a little busy, a lot of group chats, just keeping up with every day, just planning dates and times with everybody. But I'm really excited, just looking forward to just a fun time ahead.
Uh, where's the bachelor party to? Where are you going?
So I narrowed it down to 2 places, either Miami or Vegas. So we'll hopefully lock down one of those this month. So I'm really looking forward to it. People told me great things about both places, so I really can't go wrong with either one at this point.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure both. Either one you pick, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Well, Miami, I really like the water and like the beach, so that would definitely be Miami. Vegas, I don't think there's hardly anything around that I could do anything by the water other than pools or something like that. So I guess that might be one of the deciding factors.
Yeah, Adrian, so
Yeah.
much as you've said about your love for the water in the past, I'm surprised it's even a contest. I would think it's just hands down Miami.
Yeah, I think that, but a lot of people told me just Vegas, you have to go there eventually at one point. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff to do there. So
Mm,
we're just seeing what works best for everybody, and then hopefully we'll lock something down soon. So I'm really looking forward to it.
fantastic. Hey, well, how are you
Yeah,
doing,
that's
Roshan?
great.
What's the latest?
Everything's going well. Nothing too new or exciting to report. I've been watching some NBA playoffs, and it was unfortunate. Sunday, I fell asleep with 2 minutes left in the best game of the weekend, so I didn't get to catch the end. But nothing too interesting or different. How about you, Erik?
Well, we had a great Easter. That was really a joy. But it was also
Nice.
kind of fun in the afternoon. My youngest daughter was over, and she taught me about this SNL skit that was really big back in like the 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there. The Californians. Have you ever seen the Californians SNL skits?
I have seen that.
I
Yes.
haven't.
Oh,
No.
well, since my wife was born and raised in Southern California, and I spent a lot of years back there, that's where we met. It was hilarious to see the way in which New Yorkers perceived Californians and especially their speech pattern. So I got a great kick out of that. So listeners, if you haven't seen the SNL skits on the Californians, treat yourself. That's all I'll say.
I definitely have to check that out tonight.
Guys, let's jump into the topic. I think this is a fun one today because it's a little different than what we normally have been talking about recently with financial planning, something I think anyone can use, and it's password managers, right? So we're going to
Mhm.
discuss that today. Adrian, why don't you kick it off?
Yeah, so like Roshan said, we're going to be talking about password managers today. And just to give you a short definition on what those are, it's basically software application designed to help people or businesses or families just store and manage their information, passwords online, and these passwords are stored and encrypted on a database, and you will have probably one master password to help you log in to have access to all this information. And it's just extremely important because nowadays people have a lot of passwords. I looked up, on average, some people have around 200 passwords. So that's very hard to remember all of those all at once if you're just logging in constantly. It's a lot to remember. And there was this interesting Google survey I found online that's saying more than half or 50% of people reuse the same passwords for multiple accounts. And this is also a very risky aspect when it comes to security. So having a password manager will protect you if your data is exposed or there's a breach online, or if you're somebody that uses the same password for multiple accounts. Password managers are a useful tool to help protect your information online. So it's a very valuable topic for us to dive into today.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing I like about this is we are three what I'll call regular guys looking into this, as opposed to like technology experts. So I think that will be relatable to everyone listening, except for the technology experts that have got this figured out already. They might they might use this as comedy for them, laughing at what we're looking at. But what we want to do first is talk about what we came up with, what we decided to go with, and why. So, Eric, I'm going to ask you first. What password manager did you decide to go with?
I went with Keeper.
Okay, and Adrian.
Keeper.
Whoa. All right, I'm the different one. I ended up going with LastPass. So I'd actually love to hear why you picked Keeper, and then why you didn't pick LastPass.
Yeah, well, actually, if that's the case, then Adrian, I'll let you do more of the talking about Keeper, but I'll say a couple things just in terms of the context of all of this. About the specifics, but I'll say why I chose it. I guess is that from my survey of the various options that were out there, and I looked at about 10 or 12 different possibilities. If I had been thinking about it strictly for my own household, I think I might have considered LastPass, which you chose, Roshan. I might have considered One Password. I might have considered Bitwarden. So there was a
Yep.
couple in there that
Yeah, there's a lot out there.
Dashlane possibly. I probably would have gone with one of those, but because I was thinking about it in the case of Keeper, I'm not concerned about this strictly for myself. I'm also concerned about this because I run a business. I've got staff. They're using computers. I've got to be concerned about the protection of our clients' privacy. And God forbid one of us, myself or my staff, is in an airport one day and the computer gets swiped when we're not looking or something like that. I just want to make sure that everything is completely locked down because our clients, not just my wife and I, are at risk here. And Keeper offered what appeared to be, at least if you chose the business subscription, the ability for every person in the enterprise, whom you pay for separately, to have their own license or their own authorized use of it, but they in turn are able to then share that with any number of devices across any number of platforms. So if they're using an Apple of iPhone or a Mac or a PC or an Android, as I do, and that they're able to do that across all those devices, and they're able to share it with their families. So I thought, great, I'm going to be not only protecting the business, but hopefully I'll also be, in a way, as a business owner, blessing my employees with that.
Yeah, well, this would be a good discussion, Eric, because it seems like you focus more of your research or tailored it more to the business side when looking at Keeper.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm more so focused it on more for the individual
Okay.
or families that use
Mm-hmm.
this for managing their passwords. So it's I really liked just using. I used one of the free trials that they had, and one of the things I really enjoyed about it was just the interface and home screen was very user friendly. I never had used a password manager before in the past, and Keeper did a really good job walking me through all the steps. It was very, it had, uh, the layout was very friendly for me to use, easy for me to understand. The instructions were all there. So it was a really great way for somebody that hasn't used password managers in the past to really see what they're all about and the power they can, the tools that they provide, how they could be useful for you.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
did both of you, so Eric, when you looked at it from that business perspective, did you find that the security is better, or did you just find that getting access for everybody was either better, cheaper, more cost effective? What was the decision there?
Great question. For a business user, it's a little bit more expensive than it would be for an individual user or a family. But it was also that it had a number of security features that I really liked, and among them, it has this. There's essentially there's no storing of the master password. There's no storage of these things in the way that some of the other tools use the storage, and as a result, there's less vulnerability. I'm not gonna name which of the other products that are out there, but it's a more popular and well-known one. It had in September of last year, I think they found. Fortunately, the company found it before a breach actually occurred, but they found that there were 7 vulnerabilities that had been at least initially breached, and they were able to patch that. But so far, that the system that Keeper uses isn't apparently susceptible, or wouldn't apparently be susceptible to that sort of penetration.
Got it. That's definitely valuable. You guys have got me thinking um, whether I should shift over what I've done and then move over to Keeper
Yeah,
already.
I mean, it is pretty useful. And on the left hand side of the home screen, there was this tab that walks you through all the different areas on the Keeper's website. They have My Vault, Identity and Payments, where you can keep that information, Security Audit, Breach Watch, and Deleted Items. And Security Audit was pretty useful because it shows you how strong your passwords are, and it kind of ranks them in an order, which is very useful. Where over time, if you constantly are using, let's just say, a shopping website, and you look on your breach watch or your security alert and you see that that's one of your weakest passwords, yet that's the website you use the most, that could kind of push you in a direction to make that a stronger password. And the breach watch section shows if there's anybody on the dark web or anybody that gets access to it. So it's a way for alerts to be sent to you so you could be more proactive and more aware if your passwords are exposed. And it was very easy to use, and that was why it was my top
Mm.
choice.
Yeah, so I ended up going a different route, and I'll tell you, I definitely I didn't approach this with a completely open mind, and I don't mean that necessarily in a negative.
Mm-hmm.
I have a client that is a tech guy that's been using LastPass for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So when I approached this, I had a bias towards LastPass a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and then I looked at multiple articles. I found some. Uh, CNET was one. Tech Radar had another one that comes to mind of articles of password managers, and I only found I saw LastPass's name consistently
Mm-hmm.
across the board. I only found Keeper on a few different. I found LastPass on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I found Keeper on some of them.
Mm-hmm.
But what got me interested in Keeper when I was comparing the two, and as I said, I didn't actually go with that one, but it was the couple lists I saw it on had it ranked as the top one.
Mm.
So you'd have these that would rank them, let's just say top 5, top 10, whatever the number was. LastPass was on all the lists. Keeper wasn't, but the ones Keeper was on, it ranked as the best one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that's why when you both mentioned Keeper, you have me a little bit of buyer's remorse on my side, thinking, "Hey, should I have gone with that one?" It wasn't on all the lists, but it was the top one. And then throughout this process, in the back of my mind was, well, this client of mine, he's a tech guy. He's been using this one forever and has always raved about it. So that's why I say I
Uh-huh.
approached it with a little bit of bias towards
I
LastPass.
think it has a reputation, LastPass, of of that generation or of that era, 5, 6, 10 years ago. It was
Mhm.
considered the standout product. I think that's in part why it was widely adopted, and then people who've gotten accustomed to it, why would they change? So, and for if you're, listeners, if you're thinking I just want to go with something that is well known and widely used, you're probably going to do just great with LastPass. Another that I saw really strongly ranking over and over was 1Password, that is a newer product
Yeah.
and has come out. And there's others. You'll find them. You do a little bit of just to plug into your URL password manager reviews, and I'm sure you'll see many of these from any number of sources. It's interesting that none of us had done this before. I know why I haven't. Why have neither of you ever done this before? Why did it take us needing to record determining that we thought this was advisable for our clients, and so that was what finally got us over the hump to do this? Why did you wait till now?
Lazy.
Uh-huh.
uh, you're right, inertia. Now, I have thought about it for a while. It's just never a high priority.
Hmm.
That's really it. And as we go through this, setting it took me longer to decide which one to go with. I do think that I probably say, how much time do you guys say you spent on researching which one? I'd probably say about an hour or less in deciding what to use. How much do you think, Adrian? About how long did you put in to figure out which one was the right one?
About a few hours. I just did some searches online and looked at some YouTube videos, and I probably spent around an hour on the actual Keeper website or the app that I had just to go through it. But yeah, I'd say a couple hours.
Couple of so let's say 2 hours of research. I did
Hmm.
one. Eric, how about you? Just
Yeah,
researching which
about
one to
2 hours
go
of
with.
research and 1 hour of setup. Maybe not even that.
Okay, yeah, and going back to I said I did about an hour of research. I'd say my setup time was 15 minutes.
Hmm.
I have not put every password in it.
Hmm.
And here I guess we can go into the functionality a little bit, but with LastPass, what it does is I went in and it has a suggestion on the right. It was LinkedIn was on there, Facebook was on there. So I guess some of the common site. The
Yeah.
first one actually that I did was the Google. And so you can just click on it, log in, and then it has a little box that comes up that says store in LastPass. Then you go back to the LastPass site, which I had the tab open, and that's where it would tell you if security was at risk or if it was weak or strong. So I didn't fully integrate it, but meaning I didn't put every password that I use on there.
Hmm.
My thought was as I go to the sites, it'd be easier to just click store password,
Hmm.
and then I go back to the last password site to see what they say about security.
Hmm.
Did either of you have anything that was ranked as weak security? No. So,
Adrian?
or I'm sorry, I'm. Does Keeper do that? Does Keeper tell you? I think Adrian, you said it does. Tells you about strength of password and security.
Yes, it does. There's this security audit tab that they have where it ranks like from 0 to 100, 100 being the strongest. It'll be a green bar if your password's really strong and a red bar if it's very weak. And it, for whatever password or websites that you have in there, it just breaks down each one, showing which one's the strongest and which one's the weakest. So that's one of the more important features. I thought that was really good
And so I
with
think it's
Keeper.
probably useful to say for our listeners at this time that these tools not only will store your passwords, but they'll also, if you'd like, and you say, I think that's weak, I want to change it, it will propose a password that
Hmm.
is really strong so that you can switch it from weak to strong, and now the strong one is stored there. So I think
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a big leg up.
so and that's exactly where I'm headed. Did either of you try? Did so? Were Adrian yours didn't have anyone that were they rank them or do they don't tell you it's weak? They just say this is the weakest of all your passwords. Is that correct?
Yes.
So when I very rarely use Facebook. I couldn't tell you the last time I logged in before today when I was setting up the password manager.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I logged into that, it said weak password, and then it walked me through how to change it. So I have changed the password because it called it week. And I wouldn't say I'm not guilty of using the same password for everything. I am guilty of using similar passwords for different things. So I do like that suggestion. So after it told me Facebook was weak, it then said, here's how you change the password. So it had said log into the site, go to settings, and change it. The longest step I had in setting up this whole thing was finding how to change my password on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I set up LastPass.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to store passwords. All of that just took minutes. And then eventually I actually Googled where to change password on Facebook because though it has steps on the LastPass, it was not specific enough to find
Mm-hmm.
where to do it. So then I changed that password. And Eric, as you said, it suggested something very secure. I just clicked accept. Then a little prompt came up that says store new password in LastPass. I clicked on that, and it was stored out there. With Keeper, is it a similar experience where you go to a website, type in your password, and it just says like store in Keeper, and you say yes?
Adrian, you want to talk about that?
Well, they have this feature on Keeper where you can connect it to, they call it, I believe, an extension to a browser.
Mhm.
And you just type in the web address, your username, your password. You can, like the feature Eric talked about, you could generate or make it stronger, a password. And that's a way for you to just when you go to the website, it will autofill. There's a little icon that shows the Keeper app icon that you can just click on it and it'll autofill, and that's the way that you can manage it as well. So it has all those basic features on it that are very useful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I imagine they're interchangeable. There's one other we're talking about other ones we looked at, and if there are other ones that stand out now, Eric, you mentioned one password, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned Bitwarden. Did either of you see or look into Dashlane at all?
A little bit, yeah.
What got me? So that was I'd say my top three when I was looking at them were LastPass, uh, Keeper. I'll give it a top four: Keeper, Dashlane, and One Pass. And I think, as I said, I went to the referral slash name recognition that I had through that
Mm-hmm.
client that's been
Mm-hmm.
happy with it. What got me interested in Dashlane, and I'd say that was second up probably, was it comes with its own VPN, right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, I was looking into that, and I thought, well, should I get the VPN now? Truth be told, I was not looking at it for security purposes. I had on a podcast a while ago heard an ad for a VPN that says if you you can identify your location. So if you can get different content on like Netflix if you say your VPN is putting you in like Europe
Mm-hmm.
instead of the
Mm-hmm.
United States.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't necessarily going for Netflix, but I do use streaming television.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking, could I watch all sports in every city if I just used a VPN to say I'm from that city? And
Well,
so
since we're talking about VPNs, it is also the case that recently it was time for me to re-up on the VPNs that we use because I want, again, if I'm traveling or our staff members are traveling, I want them, if they're in an airport, restaurant, library, whatever, to not just be on the open internet unprotected. And so we do have a VPN on our devices, and it's set to immediately trigger if it doesn't recognize our home or office, closed Wi-Fi. And so there's that, and then a security suite as well that goes through and is combating ransomware, malware, viruses, um, the whole bit. If so for clients, if you don't have that line of defense, do get a VPN if you're kind of at a coffee shop or whatever, and do have a security suite.
yeah, I agree. We've got that. I actually don't do work in the coffee shop. If I do not use public Wi-Fi.
Mm.
So if I am working and I'm not in the office or at home
Hmm.
on both of those protected Wi-Fi networks, I'll use my cell phone as a hotspot.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's been my, and that's got security on it and everything, that
Hmm.
hotspot. So that's been my version of a VPN or security. But I definitely don't think any of these things hurt, right?
Hmm.
It's the more security, the better, especially with uh, these guys that offer the security products are it seems to me are always just barely a step ahead of the criminals trying to steal information. So, and some cases they're not, because you had mentioned how these password managers, there was a breach, and I imagine um, these breaches are bound to happen. Actually, Adrian and I were meeting with someone who works in the security space, and he was talking to us about um, the dark web and how basically all the information is out there, and you've just got to know how to access it. And on our end, we just need to do everything we can to protect our data and information.
Hmm.
Even when registering for this, by the way, I have an old Yahoo email address that I never use, and I didn't use this because for this exercise because I thought I would need the password manager.
Right.
But if I'm ever someplace where I've got to use an email address and I don't think I'll ever use it, I'll put it on that account that I almost never check. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to open that up right now. It says I've got 75,000 unread emails. That tells you how infrequently I look at that account.
Okay, well, good. You've got your work cut out for you. So I will say, you mentioned the way in which it volunteered a number of websites for you. Adrian, did you install the browser extension on both Chrome and Edge in your machine?
I just did it on Chrome.
Okay. Well, I did it in both places, and that's, I think, a nice feature. And it also then helps you, and I imagine other tools will do the same thing, turn off the password storage feature that's native to the browser, because the Google browser's native version of password storage, ditto with Edge's, is not a match really for the level of security that this has. So if
Hmm.
you're trying to end that vulnerability and replace it with something that's more robust, then it walks you through how to go in and do that. Another thing it did that I thought was really handy, which was responding to what you said, Roshan, about it, you were prompted to talk, look at Facebook and everything like this. When I did the two browser extensions, uh, you mentioned that the average person has something like 200 passwords out there, 200 websites with passwords,
Yeah.
something like that.
Hmm.
I had 493, and they all
Wow.
automatically uploaded into the tool.
So they went from you were using the browsers tool before, and it uploaded it over all of them all at once.
Um, I do use it for websites where I don't have anything vulnerable. For anything where
Yeah.
I have actual, money at stake, I use my own password keeper. It's a spreadsheet that's locked up under, its own
On
password
password.
protected
Yeah.
spreadsheet on a drive that's also password protected. So I think got a couple layers that you'd have to penetrate to get to that. But but for a lot of those other things where they just make you register and then they make you put in a password, for those, I
Yeah.
don't care if somebody gets in. So I use for those the same password. Listeners, it's not, by the way, my password is not 12345 6. It's not password. The password made famous by Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, I think it was. So, but yeah, isn't that amazing that you can have all of those just whoosh right into this tool and it's ready to go?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty beneficial too, and I just like how Keeper 2 is also cross-platform
Hmm.
as well. I believe that's just one of the more important areas that like people want nowadays, because maybe the laptop they use is a different product than the phone that they use. So
Hmm.
having those be able to connect and just be a seamless process is just extremely important.
Hmm.
Did you like that feature as well, Eric?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I
Because
definitely think that's important, but I'm curious as to how important that, like, if I have Chrome on my phone, which is an iPhone, and I've got a PC that also has Chrome, uh, those passwords would already be integrated. Am I missing something there?
Uh, I think you're certainly right about that on Chrome, but if aren't there, for example, on an iPhone, certainly it's true on a Mac, you have Safari, you have some other browsers like this. So I think there's other ways in which that all could happen. By the way, there's another feature you can just further enhance the security of this, and I imagine this might be true with some of the others. But do you guys use the Google Authenticator tool?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, so I'm going to cover up the actual. I'm going to cover up the actual things here, but the numbers are constantly changing, so what he knows it. But they're Google Authenticator is a software tool that is one of several authentication devices that's updating codes every 30 seconds. And so you can set it up for two-factor authentication when you log into this. You can and so you not only know your master password, but you then also have to come through with this 30-second lifespan 6-digit code. So it just makes it that much more robust. You can also set it up so that it will time out if you haven't been at your computer for a while. It will revert to the passwords not being supplied. You can also have it so that if you close the browser and then reopen it, you also have to freshly log in. So different people are going to have different usages. If it's just a computer sitting in their home and no one ever comes into their home, then it's that's a different story than somebody who's got it in a workplace where there's open seating in a cubicle kind of environment. But I do think it's really pretty powerful, all of the ways in which you can further strengthen the safeguards here.
Yeah, another added layer of security. And the only other point I want to just talk about Keeper, and we kind of touched on it before, but the trusted contact. I believe other password managers have it as well, but that's a very powerful tool as well, just to use where if you're somebody that has a lot of passwords and you're having trouble remembering it or just logging in, and that tends to be a reoccurring issue, you can add a trusted contact on there that will help out with any issues that you run into, and
Mm-hmm.
that also has access as well. Is just extremely important as you get more passwords, and is just trying to keep. And if you're not someone that just keeps up to date on it constantly, having a third party or a person to help you out with it will really help you in any type of situation that you run into in the
Mm-hmm.
future.
I also say one of the nice features of I'm sure many of these tools, the family feature that's available with many of these tools. I'm sure this is true for you, Roshan. Probably you and your wife have some websites that you sign on that are family websites, and that let's say your shared bank or your shared, this or that, where it would be unworkable if you were the only one who could ever log into that website because the storage of it was on your devices. So in this case, at least, you can identify other family members, and they too then can have access to those passwords that you share.
Yeah, when I looked at these and I was comparing prices, I was only looking at the family
Mm,
price, just
hmm
thinking if I used one, whatever I use, I would tell my wife to use the same one as well,
hmm
having discussed it with both of you and done the research. But as I said, I'm going to go back and look into this further uh, since you both came to the same conclusion and mine was a little bit different, uh, just because that actually is part of the reason when I said I looked into this and I did look at what feedback I got in the past. I feel like whichever one you stick with, it's going to be a pain to switch.
Yes.
So you really got to make sure you pick what feels like the best one.
So what was the cost for the family plan? And Adrian, if you also chose the family plan, what was the cost?
Well, so I'm on the free trial,
Hmm
but I can pull that up in front of me. Give me one moment,
Well,
and
I
I'll
Off the
think I
tell
top of
had
my
you.
head,
seen.
the individual one was $8.33 a month, but I believe the family plan would be, it makes sense, a little bit more than that. But
Yeah, so
yeah,
yeah, the family plan on LastPass I think was Give me one moment. I'll pull it back up. I thought I had
Well,
it.
while you're looking for
It says
that,
it's $4 a month billed annually for the family plan, so
uh-huh,
$48.
uh-huh.
Uh, but I did see on Keeper, Eric, the one you had selected, which was the business version, um, offers a family plan included, and it's $375 a month per user.
Yeah, in
45.
this case, the structure was just exactly as you said, 375 a month per user. Although in the business case, it's a minimum of 5 users. So basically, for my team, which is fits in that 5 limit, the it works out to be 225 a year. Which I look at that and I say, if you think about the business implications and all the people in those families that get to use that, that makes total sense to me.
And as we're talking about that, the if you're not looking at the business plan with Keeper, it is they bill it annually. They quote the price monthly, but for the Keeper family, it is $74.99 per year.
Hmm.
Is what they charge for that. Keeper individual is uh, 34.99 a year.
Mm. Wow. So for our listeners, if you'd like, now you have 3 advisors who have some experience with doing this, not just recognizing that it might be important to do someday. And so in our next, if you're a client in our next meeting, if you'd like us to walk you through that, we'll be happy to do that. If you're not a client, then we just invite you to do some of this exploring yourself or reach out to us and we can tell you what we've been learning and experiencing and some tips and tricks that we've picked up as we've continued to use these. But ultimately the point of this episode was to not just believe something's important, but to actually do something that's important. You heard kind of the range of time that it took for us to do our own research. Maybe we've saved you some research steps. You also heard the amount of time that it's taken so far, at least, to get set up. And I imagine there's going to be more investment. I'm going to go through and systematically go through all the weak passwords and have Keeper suggest the improvement to those. So I know that there's going to take some time there, but I feel already just immensely better about the security profile here.
I agree with you, and that actually was one thing I was looking at as well, looking for weak passwords,
Mm-hmm.
and it did come up with one so far I thought was weak, but the fact that I don't have to come up with a password, it'll suggest it, it'll
Mm-hmm.
be some crazy mix of letters, numbers, and characters, and I don't have to think about it. That I think is valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have you had the experience before where you're trying to putting in a password and it says not accepted for not having this or not having that, and
Yes.
this will definitely save time with that, and
Right.
and the fact that it stores it and I don't have to remember that password or forget it later makes it a huge help.
Yeah. Here, here.
Well, gentlemen, I'm glad we had this episode because it sounds like we've been thinking about doing this for a while, but we didn't actually do it. So, in trying to help everyone through the podcast, we were very much able to help ourselves and get this
Mm-hmm.
done.
Here, here. Yeah. Good stuff.
Any parting thoughts or last bits of information or advice on the password managers?
Just more security and saves you time are two
Yeah.
of the important takes I got from this, where now you're forced to make these complicated passwords nowadays, which doesn't help you remember them, and just saving you time logging in and just adding a layer of security at the end of the day is just more important than ever now with how often people are online. So
Mm-hmm.
yes.
I
Yeah.
wish I remember the number in my research. I found something. I may be misquoting it, but it said that something like I think it was 80% of breaches were due to weak passwords.
Mm-hmm.
So if this at least solves that for us and in a relatively easy way, the research being 1 to 2 hours, the execution being just minutes,
Mm-hmm.
it seems very, very worthwhile.
So,
Or if listening to this podcast, you cut your research time by a half or a third.
yeah. I will say if some of our listeners are thinking, I'm not going to mess with that. So I'm just going to keep doing it the old school way. Well, I hope that you'll make the shift that we've made. But if you're sort of insisting on that, then just know that length is one of the most important determinants of the password security. So If you're, thinking about 4, 5, 6 characters, think if you can up that to, 15ish or better. And in some cases, just purely for the length of it, having 4 crazy unrelated words, even if you don't have numbers or symbols, those will help you too. I mean, up your game. I think the tools that we're talking about will really up your game. But if for whatever reason you're just one of those people who says no, not going to do it, then at least up your game with having substantially longer passwords.
Yeah, and I've heard people say passphrases now as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Use a phrase versus just a word, but it does what you said, making it longer.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Guys, this was a very. I'm really happy with this exercise because one, I think it's valuable information. Two, it got me moving on something I've been thinking about for years. So I love the topic idea, Eric. I think this one was yours. So thank you very much.
Sure.
And for everyone listening, we hope you found this helpful as well. Please like, subscribe, give us 5 stars, tell your friends and family about us. Check out the website, retirementlifestyleshow.com. If you need help with anything in your financial life, please reach out to us. Our contact information is in the show notes as always. And we'll be back next week with another great episode of the Retirement Lifestyle Show.